Okay, so in this video I'm going to be showing you how to make this low poly Jeep in Blender. It's also a beginner tutorial, so I'll be teaching you the basics you need to know when starting Blender. So let's get straight into it. Alright, so let's start off this tutorial. So down here is, as you can see I'm hovering over, is my screencast keys. These map what buttons I press. This is our 3D viewport, so this is how we see everything. And holding the middle mouse button allows us to rotate round. Holding shift with the middle mouse button lets us pan, we can move around. Holding alt lets us snap to certain views, so top down, to side, etc. And scrolling in and out on the mouse wheel makes us zoom in and out. We're going to come over here is we're going to box select, so click and drag over these two. We're going to delete them by pressing delete or backspace. We're going to select our default cube and we're going to press tab to come into edit mode, and it should all be selected like this. If it's not, press A to select everything, press G to grab so we can move it, and before that we're going to make sure we're snapped with the red line coming towards us like this. Press G to move it, Z, and we're going to pull it up a bit to about here. Then we're going to press Ctrl R to add a loop cut. We'll add one in about here. Other basic things you should know: S is to scale, so you can scale up and down, and R is to rotate. And you can also do these on the X-axis, Y-axis, and obviously the Z-axis as well for all of the basic movements, so rotation, scale, and grab. Then what we're going to do is we're actually going to bring this down a bit. We're going to press 3 or click up here to go into face select, and then we're actually going to grab this face, pull it down a bit, and then pull this face and press E. What E does is E extrudes the face, and then what we're going to do is we're going to grab this face, these edges, and pull them forward a bit, and pull this back. Press 3, pull these back a bit, go press 2, pull this forward, and this is kind of thin for what I want the thing to look like. I'm also going to press 3 and pull this back. So I'm going to press A to select everything, scale, X, pull it out a bit to make it a bit chunkier. Press Ctrl R to add another loop cut, and we're going to pull it back a bit, and we'll press S for scale, Y, and we'll press 0. So this completely flattens it along the Y axis. I'm going to pull it forward a bit. In fact, we're actually going to pull this back a bit more as well, and then leave that cut the way it is. We're actually going to press 3, come up here, and then scale these to the top on the Y axis. Give it a bit more of a sloped look. I'm just going to follow up by pulling this down a tiny bit. Yeah, so you look straight over the hood. Now, we're going to start with the wheels. So if we come off this cube, we press Shift A. This is going to give us the add menu. You can also come up here and click add. We're going to go mesh, cylinder. And then what we want to do is we're going to come to this add cylinder bit, change this to 16. Give it more of that low poly look. Select it, press tab, R, Y, 90. So it rotates like this. Move it on the X-axis, and then we're going to scale it down a bit. And also scale it on the X-axis, make it a bit thinner. We're going to snap into this view now. Come over, scale up a bit. About here. And we're going to put it over here. We're going to press A to select all, Shift D to duplicate, and then Y to move it along the Y axis. Bring it back over here. Now, how do we get stuff from this side onto this side? Simple. We're going to come over here to the wrench just underneath the box where all your transformation things are. We're going to press it, and it's going to say add modifier. We want add modifier and add a mirror. And by the way we've been doing it, the wheels will be here. Yeah, the wheels might be a bit glitched over here because of the way you've orientated. You could just press change the axis you reflect on. So you can reflect on Z. So I can press Z, comes down here, and then obviously you can reflect it on Y axis as well. What we're going to do is we're actually going to add in some vehicle bits. So we're actually going to scale these down a bit, but first we need to press decimal, individual origins. You can also come up here, and what it's going to do is every individual thing is going to be scaled by its own properties. And then we're going to press 3, come into these faces, press I to inset, and inset a face, press E to extrude to pull in the face, pull in a tiny bit, press I again to inset, extrude to pull out, and we're going to scale. Because we're on individual origins, it's scaling like this, compared to if we had it on medium point, which we usually have, it scales to what's in the middle of all of the geometry selected. So again, we're going to do it by individual origins. And now what we're going to do is we could come over here, and we're going to press Shift, Alt, and then click, and it's going to select everything in the loop. And we're going to come up here to select, and we're going to tick checker deselect, and it's going to skip every one, so we get this pattern. We're going to do the same thing on this side. So select, checker deselect. I press E to extrude, and there's all these lines. That's literally every single line going through every single face we've had selected. We're going to press hold Shift, so we go by smaller increments, and pull back. So now we have a wheel design, and we're actually going to pull out a little bit, and we're actually going to pull these in like that. So now we have some good wheels. Next up is the faces. So if we come over here and we select all of these, yeah, so this entire ring, you could also just go Shift Alt click and do this. Press I. Now this is all insetting together. So that's not what we want. So we want to press I again to inset individual. Yeah, and we do this, and then look, we've got all our windows. So going back with all them selected, we're going to go stay on individual origins, extrude, and what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to extrude wherever the faces are going. So we can pull them all in by the same amount like that. So now we have all of our windows pulled in by the same amount, which is good. That's what we want. Now we're going to start on the front grille and the front of the car, or Jeep, sorry. You press Ctrl R and a loop cut. I'm going to pull it down a bit. We're actually going to add in another loop cut up here. I'm going to pull this down. Actually no, we're going to leave that, pull that down a bit more. We're going to press K to grab the knife tool, hold Shift. Actually, we're going to come over here. Before we do the knife tool, we're going to do a loop cut right through the middle of our vehicle. The reason why is we're going to go 3, press Alt Z, and it's going to put us in X-ray mode. Select everything on this side, right click, delete faces, and then we're going to come over here and add a mirror modifier. So what this means is anything we do on this side is now going to be done on that side, same as our wheels were. So if we grab the knife tool now and we shift on this line and go up to here, knife tool is K, by the way. Once we got this selected, you can't just click elsewhere, you have to press enter, and then it'll add in that cut. What we do is we're going to come over to here. Now what this is going to need is an add-on. So the way you get an add-on is you come up here to edit, and you click on preferences, and it'll come up with a massive screen. On the left hand side you're looking at add-ons. Click add-on, and then there'll be a search bar, and you want to type in loop tools. And then once you have it, we can carry on. So come on this face, press I to inset, right click, subdivide. What this does is it's basically split the face up into however many cuts you have. So obviously you can go load it up. We're only going to do one. Press N to bring up this menu here. Click edit, loop tools, and then circle on whilst having these selected, and it turns into a circle. We're going to scale it up a bit and extrude. So this is going to give us those simple headlights. Yeah. Now what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the grill. But first, we're going to loop cut this by holding shift, so we go from the middle of it. So the reason why we hold shift when we use the knife tool is that it snaps to the middle of the face, the middle of the edge. So obviously it snaps in the middle, and this is now a completely straight line. We're going to use this later for another bit. But what we're actually going to do is we're going to move this over a bit. And then pull this over a bit. Just so we can, for later, have a bigger area up here. You might be able to guess what I'm planning on doing with it. So now, here is where the grill would be. So we're actually going to pull this down. And press knife tool. And then bring it down here. Now we can't get a accurate straight line, so we're going to press 1 to grab this vertex. Come up here to snap in and click vertex. So if we do G, X, we can press Control and snap. By snapping up here, we now have this entire section snapped. So we can come here, hold shift, and do that. So now we have this line, but we want to bevel it. So Control B, like this. And then with all of these selected, we're going to bevel again. And we're going to extrude to give the car that, give the Jeep that little front grill bit. Now we're going to come to a part I personally do. You can fully skip this, but I do this because I like having the idea of it. Let's press 3, select this face, inset, I'm going to press I and press B, and we're going to inset like this. Now the reason why we've done this is for a big reason. We can now right click, separate, selection. You can also press P to bring up the selection menu. Then with this selected, you can press tab, come to this vertex back here, has to be this one, press shift S, cursor to selected, tab out, right click, origins 3D cursor. So now you have a opening hood. You can decorate that however you want inside. I'm not going to for this. However, I will be doing it when we do the second part to this tutorial. So now we're going to add in the top part, the spare wheel, and then the frame that goes around everything. So first off, up here, press 3, and we're going to inset, and then we're going to press extrude, like this, and then we're going to press on this vertex, shift S, cursor selected. We're going to go decimal, 3D cursor. Now the reason why this is going to do it means we're going to scale from this specific point. So if we go E to extrude, scale out, and we can go E to extrude, scale, and like that, we can then go back to medium point and basically snap our way to creating this sort of roof. And this will be important because of how everything's going to be shaded later on. We can also put it back to old origin. So basically what the 3D cursor is used for is it is the point where you add stuff. So if I press shift A and I add in a plane, it adds in here. If I come over here, if I press on this, like this, all of it has that. I'm trying to think. So if I come over here to add in to where the cursor is and left click over here to move the cursor somewhere, add in a plane, it adds in the plane wherever the cursor is. So it's basically the point in which all your 3D objects will be created. So what we're going to do now is we're going to grab a wheel, just a wheel. So we're going to press L and it'll select all linked mesh. So these are two separate objects but combined. So just going to select this. We're going to press shift D and we're going to move it back like we did prior. But now we're going to separate it. Reason why is we're going to come into this object, press X on the modifier to remove it, and then we're going to right click, origin to geometry. Now we're going to rotate Z axis and basically plonk it on the back of the car to give the car a spare wheel. So now the car has a spare wheel to go with it. Now what we want to add in is the frame that goes around everything, and then we're going to start colouring our car. So in order to do that, we need to grab this. So we're going to grab this, press 3, and we're going to select all of the faces that are attached to the mesh in some way. So basically they are piercing through the mesh. I'm going to do it on this one as well. So we're going to Shift D, and we're going to Shift D with all these on, bring it up, separate selection. If you want to name this stuff, you definitely can. You can press F2 to name, or right double click. I'm going to call these wheels. I'm going to call this the hood, body, and then this is going to be the fenders, basically. And you can also rename this to spare wheel. Now what we're going to do is we're going to select all. We're going to go back to individual origins, scale on the y-axis, pull it down a bit, O, bring it up like that. Like that. And now with this we also now need to solve this a bit more, so pull this in a bit, Alt Z, and we're going to basically move this around a bit. And then we're going to press 3, link select this, extrude scale, Shift X. So it's going to scale on everything but X. You can do the same thing with everything else. So you can Shift A axis and it won't. So Shift Z, it'll ignore Z axis. Shift Y and obviously Shift X. And we're going to do this. Then we're going to turn off proportional editing. Come up. And we're going to bring this up. Then we're going to do the same thing. Extrude scale. Then bring it up. And this is on both sides. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to wrap it round. So we're going to, on this one actually, I'm going to move this forward a tiny bit. And we're also going to move the tire forward. Like that, just so we can sort this out later. And then pull this back. I'm actually going to delete these two faces. When we're pressing backslash, we can go into this view and then we press 2, select these two edges, press F and fill them. So basically what we're doing here is we're going to fill in the gap underneath what will be the door, like that. What you can do is do this, scale, we're going to do it on medium point, scale on the y-axis, 3, and then pull down this. Yeah, so now you can actually have modeling a door and have the door open. I'm not going to do it. I think that's a bit tedious, granted the rest of what we've done in this video. So I'm going to leave that about there. And we're going to extrude Y, bring it forward, scale on the y-axis at 0 so it flattens it. We're going to bring it out as far as the hood. And then extrude again. And then extrude on the y-axis. What we're going to do is we're going to enable clipping. But first we're actually going to delete the face and then grab by going to edge loop and then pressing shift alt and then click, and then we're going to do that. And what clipping does, it means as soon as it meets, they will basically merge. And now I cannot unseparate them except by unclipping merge. Except by unclicking merge. So we're going to come here, we're going to bring it down a bit. We're going to pull this in a bit. Now we have this front section. What we're going to do is we're basically going to do the exact same thing for the rear. So we're going to grab 3. We're going to pull it out a bit. We're going to scale on the y-axis. Extrude. Extrude. And then delete face. Now we're actually going to move this up a bit. So there we go. Now we have everything in place and our Jeep is looking pretty good because of it. There's some little details you can add in here and there. I'm actually going to add in some more now. So here we're going to grab the knife tool and do that. Move it along the x-axis. Grab this, inset, grab knife tool again, so we can cut this in half. Inset again, separate, and then extrude in. So now we can have brake and braking indicators. And then on the same thing over here. Now on the one I'm basing this off, it actually has it up here. So I'm going to bring this up a bit. I'm going to do that here. So we're going to cut here. Insert like this, scale on the x-axis, bring it over. And there we go. One can be indicator, one can be probably another set of lights. It does have two up here. You can add door, you can add in the number plate. There's a bunch more little details you can add in. In fact, I'm actually going to add in the number plate. I like the idea of a number plate on mine. Gives it a bit more personality. You can name whatever you want. You can add text in, and I'll show you how to in a second. Scale, extrude, and then I'm going to do the same thing. Rotate around 180 on the z-axis, like that. So if you want to add in text by any chance, you can press Shift A, text, like that, tab, and then you basically type as normal. I'm not going to add text in because it's a low poly car and I want to keep it quite basic. So tab out, delete, and go put cursor back to what I was doing. Now we're going to go through and color it. So we're going to click up here to viewport shading. We're actually going to come into the, no, we're not going to go over to, yeah, no, we will. We'll go over to the shading tab. So this is a whole new tab. It looks a bit scary, and I 100% get that. But once we click on most of these, you'll be a material. You can ignore that for the moment, and everything else looks normal. So this is our viewport. It uses the, I'm trying to remember, it has a special like view on it. This isn't what your scene looks like. In fact, when you put it into rendered view, it gets rid of it. It's just the way it has in here to basically light everything. So what we come here is our material. And it's the material that's on most things. So if we click down here to material properties, you can see all the material on a given object. So this object, if we do it army green, for example, we desaturate a bit, everything that had it enabled is now got it on, including the hood. The hood, I'm actually going to, you should name all your materials same as you should name your objects. So we're going to call this green. However, for this one, I am going to press new material. So this is the one where it looks like the 2 pages. In fact, you can actually do it here. And I'm going to call it hood. And I like the hood to be slightly darker. That's just personal preference. Like that. And we're going to do this with somewhat flat colors, because we're not going to add in roughness, metallic, anything like that. But what we do want to do is come over to render properties, and you want to click on ambient occlusion, bloom, and subscreen reflections. What this does is it makes everything look a bit nicer in Eevee, which is basically one of the render engines, which is up here. And we're going to use that to render our car. So we're going to come here, we're going to click new, we're going to material tire, and then we're going to make it black. Now this is going to do everything, and we're going to put the same material on here. And you might say, how do we get multiple materials on? Simple. So we come here to the material properties, and there's a plus in the top right. That adds a new slot, and then we can go add new material into that slot, and we're going to call this silver. Or no, we're going to call this grey. And then we're going to, then what we have to do, that's on this material, do the same thing on the wheels, and that, but instead of pressing new, we can do this, and add on the grey texture. And then you just have to select all of the faces you want to be grey. So we're going to go 3, Shift Alt click to select the loop, same here. Or you can do a easier pattern, so we press both these, press Control plus, and it increases everything. And then on this inner loop, this one here we're going to remove because this is still what would technically be the tyre. Come over to the grey and assign, and obviously let's make it grey to fit like that. Do the same on this one, so control plus plus plus, and then turn off and make it grey. I'm actually going to enable screencast. It is enabled, it's just not appearing on here. That's lovely. Oh, I love that. I'm actually going to make this slightly darker, make it stand out a bit more. Now for the windows. So we're going to do that same thing, add a new material slot, new, we'll call it windows. And we're going to select all of the faces we want it to belong to and assign. We're going to make it a nice sort of cell shaded blue, like this. And now over here we're going to call this black, because this entire section, well, I say that, yeah, I'm just going to call it black for this. You can call it border. Actually, no, that's what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it, actually, no, fenders. So this entire section, I'm going to leave this like grey-ish. I would usually obviously put metallic on this, and then what here we can do, add on another one to add on a grey, and that's what we can do these fenders as. Well, no, this grill as. Make it grey, and we can also do that for the loop of this. Make it look a bit different. And now, and we're also going to chuck that on the both the front and back number plates. The only thing left now are the lights. So we can come here, press new, and we're going to add in headlights. And instead of tampering with anything up here for this one, if they come down to emission strength, press the 5, put it all the way up to white, tab into edit mode, select the faces, assign, and because we have bloom, if you took off bloom in the settings, they look really boring, but they also still illuminate. Bloom basically gives them some glare, like you would see on cameras and as you see in life when you look at lights. So we're going to do the same thing here, add in headlight, assign headlight, and the new one called indicators. And then we're going to add in to here. But instead of leaving up here white, we're going to make it orange. No. Yeah, orange. Orange. I'm not thinking right. And then we're going to put that into emission strength. So if you zoom out, you hover over the color and press Control C. You can then Control V onto the black and it will make it the same color. I'll make it 5. And if we come back here, we can press plus, indicators, and assign to indicators. Now all you got to do is we're actually going to grab indicators, press new material, and we're going to put brake lights. Yeah, and then assign to brake lights, and then change this to a more red hue. So lower saturation, lower the hue, increase saturation, and like that, we have ourselves. Oh, we're missing one thing. So we're going to come here and we're actually going to add in the fenders to this. Reason why, we can go tab into edit mode, and then loop cut around here, loop cut here, loop cut here. Actually, no, we're going to start from up. Oh, I didn't realize. Yeah, just so we don't mess up geometry, we come to the mirror and then we click the real-time thing, comes up, and basically we want to delete these faces. So you don't want faces or edges basically inside of stuff. So for this, it was inside of everything, so we're going to delete. Yeah, re-enable it, and then boom. Well, we're going to come up here, we're going to press these two, I'm going to Control plus our way down to here, and we're going to select these loop cuts and the inside of these loop cuts, and then go and add on to the fenders, and then boom. We have this nice looking little low poly Jeep. So what we're going to do is we're going to press Shift A, add in our camera. Now if you press 0, you can actually see what the camera sees. And what we're going to do is we're going to come up to View on this tab, and click camera to view. So now when we move our view, the camera follows us. So we can get a nice little shot of our Jeep. We're going to disable it, so and obviously now you can scroll in without actually scrolling in the camera. So now we have that, and now if we come into edit, come into render property, as you can see it's not exactly lighted. What we can do this is we're going to add in a light, add in an area light, move it up, and then we're going to move it over here a bit, and then this yellow we're going to point it at the windscreen. Come to object data properties down here, and we'll increase it to 1000. We're going to scale it up a bit and make it a disc. So we're actually going to move it around a bit and do it like that. And add in a floor as well, so it gives something for it to stand on. And to make the render look even better, we tab into edit mode, grab these corners and extrude them up, and then grab these 3 edges and bevel them, an increased number of bevels, and then shade smooth. It looks like an infinite background, which is really nice. And then basically we're going to copy this, rotate around, put it down. I'm going to lower this down to 100. Pull this down, aim it up a bit. Give it a bit of a backlight. So you can press up here to get rid of all the lights, like this. And then we're actually going to move this over, point it, and we're going to make this 500. I'm actually going to add in some different lighting, so I like to add in a bit of red, make this a bit of blue, just a bit of personal preference. You can light this scene however you want. But we're going to bring this over, and we're going to do that, and then we're going to lower the saturation. And boom, hit F12, it will render. And now if I go over to rendering, you have your low poly Jeep modeled and rendered, ready for whatever you want to do with it. Being perfectly honest, you can do whatever you want with this. Now, this is part 1. Part 2 is going to be showing me going in and making this into a transformer. So be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out when that video drops. And also, don't miss out on my shorts or other content like this, such as tips and tricks and tutorials. I hope to see you in the next one. See ya.